Welcome, everybody. Brian is on vacation for this whole week, so you are stuck with me today as host. And we are having Lori Kay, which they're in the corner. I'm sorry, people keep moving on me, and I'm trying to figure out. Okay, Lori Kay will be giving the talk, until then, Bob, you are doing the mini reading.
I'm doing a reading from Emmett Fox, and from his book, Make Your Life Worthwhile. And I'll read this. The subject is realization is the key. There is a big difference between what you really believe and what you think you ought to believe, or what you want to believe. You demonstrate what you really believe. The other ideas do not demonstrate. If someday you do come to believe them, they will then demonstrate or come into effect in your life, but not before. It is not much use saying that you know that a thing will not hurt you if you only know it intellectually. If you realize even slightly that it cannot hurt you, the case is different. But just saying it in a perfunctory way that a thing cannot hurt you is not enough. It is not enough to say that you will be all right unless you believe it. It is not enough to say that God will take care of you unless you realize and believe what you are saying. The sole subject of spiritual treatment is to increase your realization of the truth, which you already accept, namely that God can and will protect you from all harm, and that fear and error have no power when you yourself do not give it to them. And the quotation from the Bible, nothing shall by any means hurt you.
So I'd like to see a show of hands, actually. Which of you would say, oh, heck yeah, if you were given the option to feel the divine with you in an active, real way, every single second of your life, the way that Bob was like, you realize it, you know it. I mean, I absolutely would. I would like to feel that divinity with me every second of the day. I would feel like I was never alone. I would know the absolute protection of feeling that high energy all the time, that peaceful energy all the time. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. But, we're told a lot about that in spiritual circles. So there are certain things that I've heard over the years. So one of them is, I am that. It is a phrase that means that I am God, God am I, that the God stuff. That's another one. In fact, we're told that I am made of God stuff. Therefore, I am God stuff. And you would think that would be kind of good news. But the problem is that instead we get frustrated because we hear that, we go, that's a great truth, and I don't get it. Like, I don't get to live it, and we want to live it. Why don't we get to live it? Or why don't we let ourselves live it? Why don't we give ourselves some of those qualities that are God-like, that are mentioned whenever we talk about the divine? Things like kindness and forgiveness and grace and peace. For some reason, it seems that we are far more connected to the struggle than to the allowing of giving ourselves that kind of, even just a corner of kindness, a corner of love. For some reason, it is a challenge. So why is it a challenge? It's a challenge because of a few things, at least. And one of them is we are very convinced that this earth that we live on, this stuff, this skin, this fan that's blowing on me, that this is reality and the only reality. Now, those of us who are on the spiritual path, we go, well, it's not really the only reality. And we're correct. But it still begs the question, how do we have such a close realization, a close consciousness of the divine that we can actually live that knowingness? So that's one of the reasons is we think this is all that is, and that's understandable. It's in our face every second of our lives. That's why spiritual practices are so important. That's why mindset is so important. The other thing that is connected to the mindset part is we have so many energies going on, so many beliefs, so many emotional settings that run counter to our focus on peace, love, forgiveness, kindness, bliss, joy. So a lot of times we don't even truly connect to the idea that it's possible to have that kind of closeness with the divine, much less find a way to actually do it. Now, long, long ago, in about 1990, I was at one of Amachi's gatherings, and she has a lot of monks around her, but they're now Swamis. There's a special ceremony, and so this one is her main speaker. He's an incredible singer, and he has this booming voice, and we call him Big Swami. Big Swami always says a prayer at the end of Mother's meditations. So during Mother's meditations, the lights are turned down, and so there's only candles, and it's very peaceful. It's very quiet. And we go through a meditation, and then Big Swami starts a prayer. That prayer has a phrase in it that I've never forgotten, mostly because the first, second, and 95th time I heard it, I went, I still don't think I get it. And the phrase was, Mother, sometimes I still struggle in your divine arms. And before I express what I now feel that is about, let me give you two others that point to the same truth. Abraham Hicks talks about the fact that Esther, the woman through whom he comes, or they come, Esther, when she's asked, what do you do? She says, I am a pointer. What? I am a pointer. I just point at what I want, and then I watch how it emerges. That's a neat trick. I like that idea. The third thing is something called polyvagal theory. This is the theory of the nervous system, and it is so closely connected with the spiritual, it blows my mind. There are three states: the low state, the I can't, which is the dorsal, the sympathetic state, which is fight or flight, and then there's ventral, which is bliss. And I read something last week that said that the ventral state, the bliss state, is actually our natural state. So you can understand, anybody can understand why that sounds like something you would want dearly to live. I'd love to live in bliss. That sounds good to me. But you also understand why that may just frustrate the heck out of you. You know, the worse that you feel, or the harder the time you're walking through in your life, the more that can sound like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. It's not true, right? I mean, I'm getting knee surgery in 2+ weeks, and it doesn't seem like bliss to me. So my work is to come into alignment with some kind of overflow, shall we say, from bliss, like peace or acceptance or self-love, so that I can do this with calm. Because how we are emotionally impacts our quality of life and also what we attract. Now, when we come to places where we say, okay, I really get that the divine element of life is the real place. That's the place where all of the stuff comes from. I get it. I get it. It still begs the question of how do we do it? How do we rest in the arms of the divine? And when we can't figure it out right away, we come up with all kinds of reasonings. They're really ours and not so much that of the divine, but they calm us. So I'm all in, like whatever makes you feel a little bit less stressed and less resistant is good because it lets you lie in the arms of the divine. So Swami said, sometimes I still struggle in your divine arms. And I hope that people will comment on this when I stop talking, because I find it core and really interesting. The fact is that we really are made of the divine, and we really are bliss. And we come in as little babies and we know it. We don't know it, actually. We just are it. As little tiny babies, we don't sit there in some kind of meditative Zen state and go, I know that I'm on one that with all that is, but we are free. We're so free. Now, depending on how early it is that you get either trained or traumatized out of your knowing, that's when you realize, uh-oh, there's another something happening here that is going to require my attention. What you're not taught is that the more you can bring in that divine state, and it can be done through meditation, through dance, through walking in the woods, through writing, it's about letting yourself be so involved in something that is not a problem, not something you have to manipulate because you feel unsafe or that you have to plan in some way. Whatever it is that you do that brings some element of that divinity into you is important, it is cumulative, and it is lasting. And it leads to that consciousness, that awareness of the inseparability, the ultimate inseparability of you and the divine. That's good stuff. One of the things that we do to struggle in the divine arms is that we come up with judgments on ourselves all the time. Absolutely all the time. Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I went broke. Oh my God, the one that's troubling me right now is I really, really tried to heal my knee on my own and it helped, but it didn't heal. And now I'm at a point where I'm just going to have to go do something I really wanted to avoid. Did I do this all wrong? Doesn't matter. What matters is the self-judgment. What matters is, am I bringing in the forgiveness, the understanding, the kindness? Am I being a good mother to myself or not? So what about those people who just get it? I don't know about you, but I've met people who just have breakthroughs, right? I mean, I'm one of them. I did it last year, but I've met people. There was a young woman I knew. I knew her mother better than her. And she came up to me and said, I had an extraordinary experience. I was sitting with Amachi. I was so angry at my mother and had been for a long time. And as I sat with her, I just realized in a very deep and complete way that I had to let go of it, that my mother was just who she was. And she says, so I completely forgive her. And the sense of peace coming out of her was extraordinary. And of course, me being me, I said, how did you do that? She said, no, she said, it just happened. And I knew another woman named Diane who had terrible problems with her knees to the point where she could no longer walk very far, maybe 2 steps. And she one day literally dragged herself out to her backyard and somehow managed to get herself up into her hammock. And she was lying there and she was looking up at the blue sky. And she was saying, you know what? this is all that we are, is this vast emptiness. That's really who we are. This vast emptiness full of divine energy. She said, and so my body is just God. My body is just God. And she stood up out of the hammock and she started running up the hill behind her house. She healed herself. She was healed. It's amazing. So I came across an Earnest Holmes book earlier today, and I would like to read you something that he wrote, which I think is quite gorgeous and quite thought and feeling inspiring. Let us start with the simple proposition that life, with its spirit or intelligence, is the sole and only creative agency in the universe. This life principle always existed and will always continue to exist. You are part of its self-expression. Therefore, the whole desire of life is to give you more life. And since it is all life, it has all life to give you. It loves you because in creating you, it has given some part of itself to you. You are dear to life, beloved by it. In creating you, it has poured itself into you. You could not ask for greater love than this, and more love could not be given. The mind is a magnet, and we attract that with which we identify the self. In order to get the most out of life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. This is not easy, for our old thought patterns cling to us with great tenacity. But being thought patterns, they can be reversed. If you are filled with fear, refill yourself with faith, for faith always overcomes fear. Now, I absolutely love that. I love the part especially about you could not ask for greater love than this, and more love could not be given. If you walked around in a meditation on either that being true or how on earth could that be true, either way, you are focusing your energy and your emotions on something that can lift you. That has the ability to lift you. Whereas more thinking about the stuff that frightens us doesn't lift us. The thing about spirituality and spiritual experiences, high spiritual experiences we may have once and not again, or at least not yet, is that we automatically attach a should to it. Oh, I had it. I had it for a minute. I should be as good as that all the time. I should understand all of this all the time. Oh my God, I know this. Why am I not living this? What's wrong with me? And as we go deeper into how can I simply apply the divine feelings of being in the arms of the divine, of God, of Jesus, of Allah, of Buddha, whoever is your beloved deity, even if it's the formless deity, how much, that is the only real question in the end, is how can I apply some kind of kindness or gentleness to my own self, no matter what is happening? So we're not doing something wrong. There's not something wrong with us. We've just practiced looking in a direction that doesn't lift us. And we need it. It's not, the object is not to become somebody who never thinks a negative thought. The object of the game, as far as I can tell, is to be able to bounce off of that negative feeling, that negative thought, and go, I'm thinking that's not lifting me. So what would lift me? Really, really, not what do I think should lift me. You have to be honest about how you feel. Deeply. You have to be deeply honest. So the point of all of this is really kind of harkens back to what Bob read, which is you can't just think your way to your divinity. You have to feel your way to your divinity, and you have to know your way. And it's supposed to feel, I think, more like a really cool adventure for a lot of people, not for everybody. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think some people have more access to finding a way for it to be an interesting and fun journey, and other people who are having harder lives may not. But I don't think that we were set up when we came here to do anything but stop struggling. I think that is the point, to stop struggling against what is divine, not to stop struggling against abuse, if you know, not to stop struggling against the physical mistreatments. That's not what I mean, but to stop struggling against our own divine alignment. Miss Ellie.
What you and Bob were talking about is, as you were saying, it's harder for some to get there than others for whatever reason. But if you've read scripture at all, you see people have achieved that. Elijah got scared, to appear in front of Queen Jezebel. And the divine fed him twice and told him to take a nap twice, and then he was strengthened. So, as great as teacher, prophet he was, he still showed human emotion. I'm scared. I can't do this. Oh my goodness, this queen is a witch. I know what she's done with prophets in the past. I can't do it. So he exhibited, one of the states of what you'd mentioned, I can't.
Right.
And then, the divine was sympathetic toward him. Okay, I hear you. Here's some food, here's some rest, and now here is your journey. And so he experienced all of that in a very short time. We're not told the time, but it was enough for 2 naps and 2 meals that he was and sometimes that can be, a 30-minute time frame, a 24-hour time frame. We don't know. We weren't told. And you had brought up Esther, and I thought it was the Esther in scripture. Well, she was scared too.
Mm-hmm.
She went through that process of being brought in with all the women of that land, of being chosen for a wife because the king's wife left in a fit of rage. But at the same time, she was like, okay, I'm in this situation now, what am I going to do about it? And she chose to be happy to talk to the right hand man of the king to see what was expected, and so then she was chosen. And then of course we know the story, and she prevented a whole race of people from perishing, and then basically turned the tables on Haman. But of course that wasn't without support and prayer, because her uncle Mordecai came and told her, and she said, well, you and the others fast with me. So even though she didn't have people near her or around her in the courts, she had people around her in community. And there is this simple phrase, verse in scripture that I've grown to, I mean, it's one of my strengthening scriptures. Belief is a substance of what is expected, the proof of what is not seen. So at some point, we all subconsciously, consciously have to come to that point. We may not understand what's going on, But whatever belief is, it's the substance of what is expected, the proof of what is not seen.
Expected by us, you mean?
It doesn't say, it just says belief is a substance of what is expected. So whether what's expected is for us to be taken care of, is for us to be taught, is for us to learn, whatever that expectation is, belief is a substance of that.
Gotcha.
And of course, the proof of it is what's not seen, because we don't know what or how we're going to get through things. We just know we need to get through it. With your knee surgery coming up, you can't tell right now. You can't tell us how you're going to get through that. You just know it needs to happen. And, for your well-being. So the proof of that is, okay, I need to do this, even though it's not my plan A, but I can get through it because I've gotten through X, Y, and Z before.
Well, actually, my plan to get through it this time is different than any other time I've ever had a procedure of any kind, because now it is to practice those divine qualities, especially kindness and seeing myself, forgiving myself and things like that. I mean, that's something I haven't used. I haven't delved into, especially during a medical procedure. So it's pretty exciting on one level, and on another level, I'm going, I wonder how I'm going to do this. I know I'm going to, because I'm going to, right? So it's like a little bit of fascination, and also I have to keep standing against the door of fear and doubt and all that, and going, yeah, I don't really feel like giving you a whole lot of attention because you're not going to lift me.
Right.
Yeah.
And we look at what we ascribe negative and positive emotions, or the lower and higher vibrational emotions. And when we can realize they're polar opposites of each other, it helps. Because
Abraham.
fear is the flip side of love.
Yep.
Happy, angry. So, I mean, when we can realize that they're opposites, they're the same emotion, if you will, on the same spectrum, but just at different ends.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Ellie.
Anybody else? Oh, Ashley, go ahead.
Okay. So I hope I want to apologize earlier because I don't know if anybody see my face when Miss Lori started, because I accidentally fell asleep on a video about the 3 levels like a day ago. So I was like, oh my gosh, I just seen a video.
That's
A
hysterical.
video on this, so it just blew me that happened the way it did. But it also kind of lets me know that I'm going the right way. And I was trying to find, I can't pronounce the guy's name, but when you say like we struggle sometimes in the divine hand, it reminded me, and I felt like this, and sometimes I feel like this, and I had to tell myself, like, snap out of it. Because I would look for, I get subtle signs of letting me know, okay, such as like the video letting me know I'm going in the right direction. Because it seems like I can look back over several things, especially dealing with myself and learning my spirituality and who I am and how to do things. And it seemed like I can, a couple of years ago, I'm like, man, I was gung ho, I was doing this and doing this. Like you said, what happened?
Yeah.
And I had to learn, like, just let it explain to me. Like, sometimes you go through so much knowledge, your brain kind of conks out, your body kind of conks out, and it has time to recharge. It got to go through the process of processing everything you learn. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, thank you, because I was like, I wasn't grasping the fact of me feeling like I should be farther right now. If I jumped in, excuse me for saying this, if I jumped in a kiddie pool head first with all this stuff, how come now it seems like I'm in a dry spell? It was giving me, I forgot, I was trying to look it up while Miss Ellie was talking, but I cannot pronounce the guy's name. But I used to have this whole little, the one guy who would roll the boulder up, and once he gets so far up the hill, it rolls right back.
Sisyphus.
I
Okay.
feel like that dealing with this journey, because I'm like, I feel like I get to these points in my life to where I'm in it and I'm going strong. I understand it, and I grasp it, and then all of a sudden I get to this moment where I'm like, maybe not going to class, or maybe not going to church, or maybe not reading that book, or maybe not. And I'm like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not still, pursuing forward? Not realizing, like, okay, you done did that part. We're going to another level. Now you need to just be still and process everything you learn. So that's why I'm kind of like in awe with this, because not only am I felt like, especially dealing with me being still now since I had my surgery last week, I had to process and look at things and reevaluate things. But it was giving me a lot of times of, damn, you could have did that, or you should have done this and this and this. But I'm still getting signs from the divine, like, no, it's okay. Here's this. You're going about it the right way. You might not feel it, you might not see it, you might not understand it, but you still going the right way. So that's all I have.
That's beautiful. What do you mean that's all you have? That's beautiful. That's gorgeous. Yeah. And it's I have to say, the thought that came up in my head while you were talking was, how do you know you're not still going forward?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really don't know. I mean, I've come to know, to trust that we are, to a certain degree. Doesn't mean I don't go into the emotion of, dang it, why is this taking forever? And or like you said, like, why am I not doing this thing that I know really helps me? What the hell's going on? I don't understand. But I really do trust that the nature of life is expansion. And since I'm a part of life, you're a part of life, we're all part of life, we're always expanding, and we're always doing this, right? We're not going, I'm doing it right, now I'm doing it wrong. It's not like that. It's not doing something right or doing wrong. And which is really the point of what I was making, is it's about how much can we put into practice this kindness to ourselves, the kind of kindness that says, well, I have to, like, let the download sort of happen. I have to sort of, marinate in this for a while. That comes from having received a message that came from kindness. Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I thank you for. Okay, thank you for saying what you said.
Okay, anybody else want to add anything? Oh, Ellie's got more wisdom from Ellie. Go for it, girl.
Where you were talking, Lori, you were saying nature of life is expansion. And it brought to my attention, I used to nanny for special needs kids, and I loved it because they were, people think they're so different. And all they want is what every other child wants: acceptance, love, kindness, interaction. And I had these two boys that I watched. They were brothers. They were 2 years apart, and they both loved Legos. So they would bring out their Legos every time I watched them. And if you've ever seen, like, the little building things on the Lego boxes, okay, so the older one would have to build whatever was on there exactly the way it was pictured. Blue block has to go with the blue block, red block has to go in that spot, and so forth. His brother, on the other hand, could build the exact same thing, but if he didn't have a blue block, he'd put a green one in there because he knew that it was the same size and it would fit. So when I would watch these boys and saw their excitement for life and everything they did, it brought up that expansion. Because, like I said, one boy had to do things exactly so. Another one could expand on that idea and do something a little different, even though it was the same.
That's
You know,
gorgeous.
so Ashley, when you were, talking about understand or knowing if you're supposed to be doing something, when you're supposed to be doing it, and you didn't do X, Y, and Z, but you did A, B, and C, you're getting confirmation from the divine that, hey, girl, you're on the right path of where you should be. You'll
Mhm.
get X, Y, and Z later, but you're getting A, B, and C now.
Oh, okay.
So,
Really cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's, I don't know,
Go ahead,
maybe
Ashley.
later.
Oh, no, I didn't realize I was off of, on mute, but yeah, I thank you for that. Thank you.
There's, I said, there's a couple talks that I've been toying around in my head. I'll talk to Brian about it, but one of them is on learning styles, and there's just four main ones, but and they're all done at the same time, though we don't see them all at the same time. We get them in pieces. We read
Hmm.
something or see something or go through something, and it's like we get the basic lesson. We go through the same thing later, and we may get the metaphorical lesson that we already had the basic lesson, but it ties into what we're going through.
Oh, wow. Wow, I like that.
So we're always learning, and we're all at different levels of learning. You don't give a child a trigonometry lesson and expect them to get it.
You don't even give one to me.
Okay, so you start with colors, and then shapes, and then numbers. 1 + 1 = 2. You start with the building blocks, so eventually you get here, or that child gets here. And if you're
Right.
still on the basics at whatever age you are, that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, I agree. That's beautiful, Ellie. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Very interesting, wonderful topic and subjects and what have.
Thank you, God, Goddess, Universe, Divinity itself, for being all that we are and for being so completely with us and for us that we cannot really stumble all the way down ever. We are so grateful for your being our grounding and our wings in flight. We say, as Brian always says, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.
And so it is.